Digital Marketing Radio, episode 136. How to create a compelling online offer.
DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Aweber. Build your email list, engage your subscribers, do email the right way. I've arranged a special deal for all Digital Marketing Radio listeners, and that's a 60-day free trial with the email marketing software provider I use, Aweber. Lock in your 60-day free trial, plus view a video that I've recorded on the 3 reasons why I use their service at aweber.com/DMR. So just go to aweber.com/DMR to get started today.
The big interview with David Bain.
I'm David Bain, and this is Digital Marketing Radio, weekly interviews with online marketing gurus. Catch up with all the previous episodes at digitalmarketingradio.com. Now, today I'm joined by someone who was ranked the #1 tennis player in Switzerland before suffering a career-ending injury at the age of 17, forcing him to reevaluate his entire life. Since then, he's built a multi-million-dollar internet marketing business in less than 36 months and authored a book called Maximize, 29 Strategies to Turbocharge Your Business with the Power of the Internet. Welcome to DMR, Matthias Mazur.
Thanks, David. Happy to be here, and that was a really good intro, so thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. No, that's all we've got time for, so we've got to close up now. No. So, well, of course, you can find Matthias over at matthiasmazur.com. I'll have a link to that in the show notes at digitalmarketingradio.com. So, Matthias, what is a compelling online offer?
So, the way it's funny, I was just creating a training for some of our members today, and really what it boils down to is when you really analyze pretty much anything about business, it's really about creating something that the audience, that the market is attracted to. So, you can have, there's a lot of products that look like they're the same in every market, but a lot of them, if you analyze successful companies, all have a certain hook, all have a certain position in the market, and all have a different offer. And oftentimes you can have what's considered to be a pretty boring product or a pretty normal offer. And by tweaking a few things, you can make it very special. You can really start attracting different customers. You can start attracting higher quality customers. And you can start, kind of pushing the bad customers and people you don't want to have in your business away just by tweaking a few things. So creating an offer is really the basis before you do any type of marketing, before creating advertisements, before buying traffic, before creating landing pages, before creating anything. It's really thinking of what am I selling and how can I position what I'm selling in a way that really makes it very, very attractive and seductive for my ideal market to come to me and want to buy it without having to think about it, without having to negotiate on price. And how can I create the sexiest thing alive in my market to really gain market share? That's the way I view, everything, like how I create offers and how I think about offers.
It's interesting that you mentioned there the people that you don't want as well, because a lot of people are probably scared of actually turning potential customers away. But do you think that's a mistake? Do you think that every business needs to be very, very defined about who they want as a target customer, and it's a good idea to turn away prospects?
Yeah, that's a really good question because, so I'll answer this question a bit differently. I think it really depends at what stage your business is at. So, and how new you are to the entrepreneurship game. As anyone, I've been in the entrepreneurship game for a long time. I'm young, but I started when I was really young. So I'm kind of, I've seen and done a lot. So my perspective is different than someone who's just starting out, right? But the way the best way of putting this is selling is easy. That's the way I see it. So it might be very contrarian, and it might be a bit unexpected for me to say that I feel that, and I know that marketing and selling is easy. So the way I see any sales dynamic is, who do you want to service? Meaning, who do you want to have not only for a day, because you have to think of business as a long-term play. Today, in today's marketplace, maybe 50 years ago, 200 years ago, I wasn't even born, but you could get away with making a lot of money on a front-end transaction, so on the initial transaction. So in that case, okay, I'll just create a product and get as many buyers as possible, and then I'll never have to deal with them. But in today's dynamic, in today's business, in today's marketplace, the real money is made with long-term, transactions, people who buy over and over again, people who buy more products and services. So if you start a relationship, a customer relationship, so a customer, and if you're selling, so a professional transaction with someone who is not qualified for him to buy what you're selling on the back end, to buy more things, not only will you lose your time with those people, so you'll literally go crazy. Because I think anyone listening to this who's made any kind of sales knows that there's good customers and bad customers, right? So by creating a compelling offer, you really get to attract the ones you want to, and it's saying no will eventually become more important than saying yes. So because the way we see it as an experience shows that 10% of the customers will cause 90% of the issues. and we see that time and time again. So how can we create an offer and a dynamic where we actually get rid of those before they even buy? And so the people that do buy are very committed, and they're more likely to buy what we offer 6 months from now, 5 years from now, etc. So it's something that you learn as you go, but it's something that I would have loved someone to tell me if I'm starting out today is say no to the people you feel that are not going to be a good fit for you.
So what do you do with those people? Do you just say no to them and try and get rid of them as soon as possible? Or do you actually try and bucket them into a different email list to potentially sell something else to at some point in the future?
It really depends, and it's a horrible answer, but I'll give you 2 examples. It depends is it worth your time getting those email addresses, so creating lists of, let's call them like undesirable customers, and sending them offers that you don't like, sending them offers as an affiliate maybe, so you don't have to deal with those types of customers who come back for customer support and who ask thousands of questions? Or is it a better use of your time to say, sorry, we don't do that, and I'm sure you can find other people in the market to serve you, but that's not what we do. And as you go, it's really a matter of managing your time. So there comes a point where you start getting more attention, you make more sales, and even dealing with the scenario where you said, do I actually get those customers, those prospects, and do I put them on a different list? That in itself becomes not worth your time, because you're attracting so many of the right customers that there's only so many hours in the day and you don't really have time. It's not worth it to deal with people who don't fit what you're offering.
Yes, what you're offering, what you want to do as a business, and what you actually like to do as well. There is perhaps a business in that list, but if it's not in your core area of expertise or what you actually want to do, then I guess focusing any of your time on that is probably wasting your time.
Yeah, I'll give you a very concrete example. If you walk into a Ferrari dealership, right, or like a high-end, I'm Swiss, so we have a lot of high-end watches, obviously. If you walk into any of those very luxurious brands, they won't take your email address and say, hey, we'll send you to Swatch, or we'll send your email address to Casio so they can sell you like a $50 watch. They won't even almost talk to you, right? So it's extreme, but it just illustrates the point that if you know who you're selling to, you don't even need to waste time with the people who don't fit what you're selling to. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's positioning yourself as a brand as well.
Yeah.
And what about the correct time to sell to someone? Is it always appropriate to try and get a sale the first time they actually visit your website? Or is nurturing that relationship and building that trust over time more appropriate in certain industries?
That's a really good question. And so there's two answers. There's two schools of thought. It really comes down to the vision that you have as the executive, as the entrepreneur. We've done both. So for some it also depends on the price of the transaction, right? We sell through the agency. We sell services that go up to $250,000. You won't make a $250,000 sale the first day meeting your prospect, unless if they've done a lot of research on you, they've read a lot about you, they know people who recommend you, and they're buyers. It's not going to happen, right? You're going to have to build that relationship. For some transactions that go up to $6,000 or $8,000, we will have transactions that happen literally on day one of people arriving in the funnel. So that happens too. So it really depends on the process you place the prospect in before he reaches the decision. So if I'll give you an extreme example again to illustrate this. If someone signs up on your website and you're selling a $50,000 package, whatever it is, it can be a physical product, it can be consulting. If that's your pitch, if your pitch is, you just gave me your email address and now I'm gonna sell you a $50,000 thing, it's never gonna happen, right? But if someone comes in and you place them through specific marketing channels, you give them to your phone sales team, you send them a physical package, you follow up with them every couple days, they can buy within a week or two. So you can really speed up the decision-making process depending on the effectiveness of the marketing.
So we're recording this live on Blab, of course, for any repeat listeners. And Rick of Rock asked a question: how is the latest Panda update going to affect customers? So obviously this relates to SEO, and the Panda update obviously relates to quality content. From my perspective, it's not a major issue as long as if you're focusing on quality, unique content yourself as a business. Do you have any perspective on that at all, Matthias?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Google is always going to change the rules, and the reason why they do that is just because they want to filter out people who put out real, genuine content versus people who spam the search engines. And both methods are viable for a different period of time, but it's in Google's best interest to start filtering that out. But I think the question is, of course, it's a big update for Google, but at the same time, if you have a good strategy and you know that the content you're putting out is good and you're building an audience the way you're doing it, for example, you know that you have original content, it's fine. Like it doesn't even register in my mind, because if you're not trying to manipulate the search engines to the extreme, you'll be fine.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that. But obviously, of course, online marketing changes a lot over the years. We're in 2016 now. What are some of the more essential aspects to be focusing on in 2016 compared with previous years, do you think?
It's interesting because I started marketing over 10 years ago, so in 2004, really like heavily marketing. So you see trends happening every 6 to 12 months. You see people changing their buying behavior differently, especially after the 2008 crisis. There was a huge drop after the credit crunch hit because consumers didn't have any credit really on credit card, right? So that affected sales immensely. So if I have to look at 2016 and the way I see things going, I really feel like it's back to basics, which is pretty reassuring for companies and entrepreneurs who do things the right way. Meaning, pre-2008, you would have companies who knew that consumers had no limit on their credit card. And if we're talking online sales purely, it's all about credit cards, right? That's the only way really you can sell. Like 90% of transactions happen with your credit card. So I feel like that washed away a lot of the BS in a way. And so now I feel like there's a really huge opportunity for companies and entrepreneurs who do things the right way. And that's one thing. So just focusing on two things, like building a good brand a brand where you're actually providing value, where you're actually putting out good stuff, and also linking that with the luxury of online advertising that's available today, which when I started out did not exist. Like, we started out on Google AdWords and Bing and even Overture before that. The level of sophistication in the way you can target and reach your audience on Facebook or Twitter, for example, is huge. So I feel like it's back to basics, really. I feel very confident and just very at ease with the way things are going now, because I feel like in the last few years, Google kind of cleaned up a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I know a lot of black hat guys who do things the wrong way and they're still making a lot of money, but it's always cops and robbers, right? It's always figuring out things and how soon will Google find you in a way and shut you down. So I feel like if you're just focusing on doing good things, it's a great time.
Yeah.
It's easier now than a couple of years ago. I can tell you that too.
Yes, no, completely agree with you as well. Back in 2004, 5, and 6, I was making really good money through Google AdSense and getting my pages ranked to the top of Google and driving a lot of visits through that, but it didn't feel like a right, decent business model that you could actually feel good about at the end of the day. And now Google actually encourages you in a way to actually create businesses that are long lasting, that are based on people really appreciating what you do over the long term. So that's a great thing, that is.
And I also think that social media pushes you to do that. Like, if you put out really bad content and you're trying to do harm to the marketplace, people will talk. And now come on, it's like people send out a tweet. Things can go viral so fast within a small market that, like, if you're doing bad things in today's market is like the worst time ever, which is great, because if you actually focus on the good things, and putting out and having like a viable business, obviously focusing on sales because you need to pay your bills and that's how you make money, but doing it the right way, it's the best. It's really the best time and the biggest opportunity that I've seen in the last few years.
So do you think a business can still be successful in the future by people, in effect, actually hiding behind the business brand and not having their own personal brand? Or do you think to be successful in the future in a business, it will have to be paramount to actually have individuals to put themselves forward and actually build their personal brand authority as well?
It really depends on what the goal is. And this is more in terms of like how you structure a business, meaning if you want to build a business to sell it, it's virtually impossible to sell it with your name attached to it if you've been marketing it for 5 years and you want to sell it in 5 years. If everything you've done, if every customer that came into your business was sold through you one-to-one or through your videos, selling that is going to be difficult because the buyer knows that the business will depend on you and your face. So it really depends, I would say, on how you want to structure the business. Both work great, but even if you look at corporations today, you'll see executives and CEOs who are kind of like, who are old school, who are in their 60s, who did not grow up with Snapchat and Instagram, being forced today to really step in front of the camera and actually interact with customers and give a face to the corporation. So I feel like because of social media pushing for transparency, we'll see more and more of even big brands being pushed by the CEO. You'll see more CEOs step in actively and you see this with big brands like Nike, for example. You see executives like Mark Cuban being really involved in using their clout and their social, their social status to push their brands and their investments. I think it's really, that's what I'm saying. It's back to kind of basics because your reputation will matter more than ever, I think, now in the age of transparency.
A lot of great points there, thanks. Well, coming up, we're going to be learning about the one piece of software that Matthias couldn't live without. But first of all, I'd just like to take a little break and say a quick thank you to everyone who's left a review on my Introduction to SEO course on Udemy. I've now actually had over 13,000 people take the course, 264 reviews at the point of recording. Just today, got a review from Nancy Farinas saying, David, thank you so much for putting such a well-organized and easy to comprehend presentation and SEO basics together. There's a good balance of seeing you on screen. Your delivery of the information was excellent. So a great review there from Nancy. So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone else who has left reviews. But let's segue into the second section of our discussion, and that focuses on Matthias's thoughts on where digital marketing's been and where it's heading. So starting off with
software I couldn't live without.
So what software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you, it would significantly impact your marketing success?
I would say there's a few. I would say Skype is a big one, just because I have Skype on my computers and my phone. That's how I communicate with my team. Skype would be a big one. Dropbox for sure, because everything's really in the cloud now. In anything you do, I would say one that I love is RoboForm. Mm-hmm. It saves all your passwords. That's really a lifesaver for me. And I got this like over 10 years ago, so it was good. And yeah, I would say like those would be the main three that would be difficult to operate just on a basic level.
RoboForm, actually, that's a blast from the past, because I used to use RoboForm for actually submitting websites to directories.
Yep.
So, but you could also use it for passwords as well. So a great tool in LastPass and tools like that. So thanks for that. But a slightly more challenging question: what piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about, and you intend to try at some point in the near future?
You know, I honestly, it's a bad question to ask me, because I'll tell you why. Even though I'm an online marketer and I know what's happening in the marketplace, I tend to kind of put the blinders on, because I feel like when things are going well in business, I tend to not look what's happening in the market, but really stay focused on what I'm doing. So I tend to kind of like close my vision down in a good way. I mean, like, I'm always aware of what's happening, but my time and my attention, I really try to focus in on what we're doing. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. You're too sensible. Most entrepreneurs are just fascinated by this bright, shiny thing that appears every so often, and they go off and actually follow that and doing the thing that they need to be doing.
I will say that the number one thing, it's not a direct software, it's more of it's a platform that I feel is going to gain a lot of traction in the next 18 to 24 months, is Snapchat.
Okay. And
even though we do use it, I haven't used it as much as Facebook or Instagram, but I feel like it's a good time to start building something. Just looking at what the company is doing, I feel like it's one of those that can explode in the next 12 to 18 months.
And you don't have any shares in Snapchat at all, do you?
No, I would not. Unfortunately not. No.
Because I ask you because as Rick and Rock says in the chat, Gary Vee is pushing it like crazy at the moment, but he is a backer of it. You know, he's got shares in it as well.
Yeah. Obviously, he's biased. So, but you know, the reason why is just because it makes sense. You know, the way I see it is, I feel like it's really about. You know, I was talking with my grandmom. She's on Facebook, which is scary to me. She's 84 years old, right? So I feel like Facebook, and you see, even though I have Facebook open pretty much all day, like even on my phone, I feel like, you know, even the way I behave towards Facebook, I don't check out notifications as much. So I feel like I'm not giving as much importance to comments or likes or shares on Facebook that I do when I get a Snapchat, which is interesting in kind of looking at how even view platforms. So I feel like Snapchat is going to really hit hard. I also think that Instagram is undervalued and will go up more and more, just because I think we do live in a very ego-driven society, and those platforms are just awesome for sharing, you know, ego-based stuff. So I feel like both are really going to gain a lot of traction.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've got negative-ish feelings about Facebook myself, and perhaps I might not feel the same way if it offers a service like Blab does, like live video like this, and there's talk of it doing this kind of thing in the future. So I'm sure Facebook will evolve, and I'm sure I'll get back to it. And even though people love to hate it, that's where the community is as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, they're they're buying everyone, by the way. So that always shows who's the number one player in the market. The player. And look at like in the Microsoft years, they would buy everyone. Then Google would buy everyone, and now Facebook is buying everyone. So they're here to stay. And what's interesting with Facebook is really the data, and it's not a secret. Facebook has the most data in any platform online at the moment, which is crazy for us advertisers. I mean, for us it's paradise because we can really tap into 1.5 billion users. So I feel very strongly towards Facebook ads, and I feel strongly towards the natural use and the organic growth of Instagram. By the way, Instagram ads are not maximized yet, so that's going to be interesting. Probably this year they'll put more focus towards creating a better product for advertisers, but I feel like Instagram and Snapchat will gain the most traction.
Okay, well, I'll include links to all your recommendations in the show notes over at digitalmarketingradio.com. But moving on to...
I wish I would have.
I'd like you to look back in the very first day that you're involved in trying to market a business online. What didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
I wish I would have understood the basics of online marketing and online sales sooner, because the only thing, everything boils down to two things online and offline too, but online it's even more crucial. How much are you spending to acquire a new customer, and how much money are you making for every customer that comes in? So if you're spending ads, right, you're running ads and you're spending $50 to acquire a new customer, or $100, or depending on the service you're selling, it might be more. It might be $5,000 to acquire a customer. And then knowing how much that customer will spend with you in the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, and lifetime. I think if I would have been aware of those two metrics earlier, like those two things earlier, it would have really made me think differently. And I would have scaled several of my businesses way faster.
Great thoughts. And with regards to what paid advertising activity is working best at the moment, is it Facebook advertising that is best for you just now?
Yeah, so Facebook is great. I'm also a bit wary of Facebook because I feel like Facebook is becoming Google in 2008, 2009, meaning more and more advertisers are using Facebook, and I've gone through this with Google before, where when everyone's using Facebook, Facebook will come in eventually. It can be in a month, in 3 months, to 6 months, or in 5 years, but they will shut down thousands of accounts like Google has before, just because that it happens. Happened with Bing, happened with every platform that's out there. So I feel like a lot of companies are over-relying on Facebook ads. So yes, we do use Facebook ads, but I feel like Instagram's products might be interesting just because of how native it is. Every time I go on Instagram, I see ads, and I mean, we've spent millions in online ads, so I know exactly what's happening on the back end when I see an ad. But even for me, I'm surprised that it's slick. So I feel like it can really work. But I feel like it's also back to basics in terms of online ads and having direct deals and direct relationships with platforms. So cutting the middleman and going to forums, blogs, sites that have big distribution and brokering deals with them directly, which very few advertisers do, by the way. So that's also a big opportunity for people who have the balls and the budget to do it.
Yeah, native advertising is becoming very interesting and potentially going to be a big competitor to the likes of the big traditional networks like Google and Facebook. And I've got an advertiser in this podcast, and lots of people will be starting to deal directly. Do you see that to be a really growing trend in the future?
Well, it's funny because that's how I started out. That's how you had to do it before there were all these online platforms in the RTB platforms where you could buy traffic that was aggregated. Before there was no aggregator, so you had to go one by one and placing, and creating specific ads for each blog because they would have to be reviewed by the blog owner. So it was hell. It was really time consuming. But I feel like that's coming back now, because also I feel like blog owners and publishers are happy to deal more directly than to place their ads and inventory on platforms. So I feel like that's also interesting to explore, having strategic partnerships with publishers.
This or that round.
That's my finger jumping in too soon, though. I thought you were just about to finish your points there. But so this is the quick response round. 10 quick questions. Just 2 rules here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion. So, ready to go?
Yep.
Email or Twitter?
Email.
Audio or video?
Video.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Display ads.
Facebook or Google Plus?
Facebook.
Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
One-on-one relationships.
Paid search or SEO?
Paid search.
Email contact form or telephone number?
Email.
Website or app?
Website.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Both.
And local marketing or global marketing?
Global.
That's amazing. I mean, most people go for email subscriber over social subscriber, but you rate Twitter followers and page likes on Facebook quite highly, do you?
Well, yes, because thinking long term, that's where it's going to be. And I'm still very, I built, like, everything we've done, everything we still do is also heavily based on email marketing and email sales. So like when we drive traffic to a webinar or any offer, we'll drive way more traffic with email than we will with Facebook, or so Facebook directly, not Facebook ads, but like with the brand. But I see it as short term. I see it as really, so email is a much more direct response, right? If you want to do a webinar tomorrow, you email the list. If you want it, you need to have a much bigger base on Facebook and Twitter to have the same results that you get in email marketing. So I would do both: email marketing for short term, branding and Facebook, Twitter for the long term.
Okay, so you say both because they both work well and can work in tandem, not because you see email on the way out at all. Email is still going to be important for the future, yeah?
I feel so. I feel it'll still be around. Obviously, historically, rates are just dropping like crazy. We've sent over 1 billion emails in the last 10 years, so we've seen, how things go. But I feel like it's still going to be here for years. But at the same time, historically, just social media is growing. So I feel like we're just at that kind of the cross between email not on the way out, but like email will decline and social media will pick up, just like it has been in the last 2-3 years. So I feel like you need to do both to really impact people who are on, you can reach out to, through email and also through social media.
The $10,000 question.
If I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on? And how would you measure success? And would it be Facebook advertising by the sound of it?
Pretty much. So it would be paid advertising. I would put the 10,000 in paid advertising. Okay,
and in terms of measuring success, are you looking to get an immediate sale out of that, or are you looking to build an email list as a result?
Both. So if I had 10,000 and nothing else, I would put 10,000 in online advertising, drive them to an opt-in page to register for a webinar, and I would make an offer on the webinar.
And would it be a live webinar or a pre-recorded webinar?
Live. So if it was my last shot, if I had my last 10K, I would put 10K. I would drive people to a registration page. I would do a live webinar, sell something for at least $500, and I would make anywhere between 30 to 80,000 on that webinar.
Is that something that you do on an ongoing basis at the moment? Yeah.
That's pretty much our business model. That's what we do. So.
Interesting. I've done a few webinars, but not too many sales focused. I've probably got to do a few more of them. Actually, got to get started in them.
It's amazing. Like it's the best way that I've built sales teams up to 60 salespeople. I've done dozens of sales presentations on stage. Webinars are, from what we've seen, unless if you want to build a real phone team, which makes a lot of money, but at the same time you need to manage salespeople, which is not easy, and requires day-to-day management. Webinars are the number one way to convert audiences to build a great relationship, because you would be having a 2-hour presentation with them and you would have their attention for 2 hours. And if you make a great offer, most of them would buy. And even if only 10% buys, you're still making, probably at least doubling your money on every webinar.
Well, Matthias, I could keep on picking your brain for probably at least another hour, but probably wouldn't be too fair to you at the moment. But I reckon we can distill your knowledge into one takeaway, if that's okay, and finish off with
my number one takeaway.
So you've offered a lot of great advice in our conversation, but what's the number one takeaway? What's the single most important step that our listeners need to take away and implement in their businesses?
I'm also involved in the movie business, so I'll give you something that relates to movies too. When Matt Damon won the Oscar when he was 19 or 20 years old for Good Will Hunting, he said, "You're one good movie away from being the biggest star you could ever imagine," because that's what happened to him, right? In the same way that happened to him, I've seen it for us, for clients, for us, like for mine companies, when we go into a new market, you're really one great offer away from 7 figures in business, literally in the next 3 to 6 months. So when you have an offer that is compelling, that the market wants, that's multiple 7 figures in the long term, and pure freedom for you. So that would be the main thing that I would focus on.
A lot to think about there, and I'm sure that a lot of people will listen to this again and again, because you've offered a lot of information throughout this conversation. So thank you so very much. What is the best way for our audience to find out more about you and what you do?
I think mainly my blog, so matthiasmazur.com, and I don't know if you link it or if you publish it. So
absolutely, I'll include that in the show notes at digitalmarketingradio.com, but feel free to mention anything you want as well.
Yeah, and then so that's like the main platform, and then I'm pretty active on Twitter. So not so much on my Facebook, my public page, but more through Twitter. So, and my Twitter handle is @MattMazur. So that would be the best way to reach out.
Excellent. So thanks to Matthias, and thanks, dear listener, too. If you enjoyed what Matthias shared today, here's how you can help. Go and get a friend's iPhone, go to the podcast app and search for Digital Marketing Radio. Click on the show and hit the subscribe button and make them listen too. Finally, I'm also host of another live show every Friday called This Week in Organic. Head over to thisweekinorganic.com to find out more about that. But that's all for now. Until we meet again, adios, and thanks again, Matthias. It was really good.
Thanks.